As I've been alluding to, I've kind of been very slumped the last few days. I'm very low energy, and I don't know, maybe, but more important, I think, than that right now is going through at least one World Cup game, and that game is my game against David Pearl from California. And here's a score sheet if you want a little bit of spoilers. This is it. This is the game. And it's round 21 of the 2022 World Cup. I am 10-10 at this point in the tournament. Just extremely disappointed. And I think in my previous videos, at the end of the videos, after like losing or whatever, after showing that I lost the game, I would say, I guess, yeah, I just need to play Scrabble and try to have a good time. And the actuality of it, the truth of it is that in this at this point in the tournament, after I was 10-10, even a couple games prior, I was completely demoralized and upset with myself and really not in a good headspace. And in hindsight, I mean, obviously that's not a good thing at all in general. Like if you're not in a good headspace, no matter what, you're not going to perform to the best of your abilities. But also, like, the other thing is just like if I want to bounce back, I need to focus, and there's still like 10 games, 11 games to go, and like I still had a chance of cashing in the tournament and making a comeback, and also just generally speaking, um, even if I didn't, I should still try and be in a good mental health space, because I mean it matters for the long run. If I'm not able to maintain that my composure in one tournament, it's definitely going to affect me in the longer run. And I know that I've made a lot of progress in that regard, but not enough. So yeah, I definitely was very demoralized and tilted in this position, in this at this point in the tournament. And yeah, I was facing David Pearl. I'd played him before. Um, I'd always found David um, to be very confident in his playing abilities, and he's a very strong player. And he's like, I think he does. I think he does as good, if not better, than me on aerolith. I think his name is Moon the Beagle on, or is his name Backspin? Maybe it's Backspin. No, I think he's Backspin on Woogles. I think Moon the Beagle's someone else. I don't know. Anyways, very strong player, but he was never like a top player. He's never in the 2000s. I think he's hovered around 1900. And the couple times I played him, he had the demeanor of somebody who would be like a top 10 player in terms of his confidence and his abilities. And this actually reminds me of I don't know if anybody's following chess news, um, but yeah, today some bombshell of chess drama occurred where the world champion Magnus Carlsen dropped out of a tournament for the first time in his career for personal reasons. And so yeah, today is September 5th, and what ensued was because of his vague twittering or vague booking on Twitter. What ensued was a lot of top players, but also a lot of players thinking that the reason he dropped out is because of accusations that Hans Niemann, a 19-year-old chess player, grandmaster from the United States, was cheating in the tournament. And I'll refund that, GT man. That's not the time. But what's striking about Hans is before his incredible ascent to like being 2700 rated, making him a super grandmaster. He was acting like it. He was acting like he was just as good. In his head, he's just as good as the top players, if not better. And that is an attitude you kind of need if you want to get to the top. So David Pearl has that attitude, and it can come off as cocky and like arrogant and overconfident when he doesn't have necessarily the results to prove himself, I guess, prove his worth to everyone else. But it's an important thing to have, and I was like that when I was rated like 1500. But yeah, Scrabble speaks for itself, exactly, and you'll see the Scrabble speaking for itself in this game. Flash forward. What's up, Quixotic? But yeah, just I mean, act like you're the best before you are the best. Otherwise, you might not get there. Yeah, shout out to Quixotic. So David is first, and he opens with beige. And I had B, D, O, U, D. Yeah, this is my rack here. And I played Ditz. I could also play Doubted and keep the Z. It's actually really close in valuation. Doze I didn't like because it opened up scoring spots that are pretty easy to hit and didn't seem to be as good on equity. So I think it's between Ditz and Doubted. And there is actually a period of time where I would play Doubted here because the Z is just it has great value long term. But in this position, the defense didn't lie, and after Ditz, opponent's average score is way lower, average bingo chances way lower, and so the defense was just the main aspect of why I played Ditz. Here, David played movie. Turn to this rack, FAH draw, pretty good. I have Habu. I don't actually remember if I saw that, but I ended up playing Fub, continuing the trend of trying to give as little back as possible, but I think Habu might just be better. Scores the best. And I mean, Foe also. I didn't really consider Foe that much. I really wanted to get rid of the U, but Foe is pretty good. It's a nice in between between like scoring and not opening things, and rack balancing. Those are the three aspects of this position. Fub definitely gives more back than Foe does. The overlaps are quite possible, especially with Abo being a word. Yeah, very close between all these plays. I could see myself making either of them, any of them, on a different day. But I went with Fub because it set up Oda immediately for 37. So if David didn't use the spot, I had a guaranteed really nice scoring play there. And I didn't want to play Habu just to make the position a bit more complicated potentially. And yeah, Foe, I guess the U just the valuation keeps decreasing. I think Quackle's realizing the U is just really bad. So I played Fub. And Gene was the comeback by David. And so I got to play the play I was hoping to play. But here I noticed that I could play a hold. Aloha doesn't make sense. But I decided against playing a hold. The score is tied here, but I had tempo, and I thought that after the play of Jean, by playing a hold, I was really drastically increasing Davis' chances of bingoing. Since he just played 3 good bingo tiles for some 20 points, I thought it was likely that at least 1 or 2 of these tiles was duplicated on his rack. And if he has an EN or an AN or an AE on his rack, really playing a hold increases his chances of getting a bingo down drastically. The other issue is the S hook of Jean. So the good aspect of a hold is that it mitigates the S hook of Jeans and forces bingos ending in S to play with beiges, which gives the H1 scoring spot. So if you imagine me scoring 41 points here, being down 38, a 75 point bingo at I2, I would be down 35, 40 points, and I could potentially get a big scoring play to tie the game up on the H column. So that was a good aspect of a hold, but I really thought that the limiting bingo chances immediately by not giving David any floaters to play through was worth it, considering the range of tiles he was likely to have after GEAN. And by seeing that a hold is slightly better on valuation in a simulation, I think that my decision to go ahead with my setup was not me being biased and wanting to complete my setup, but actually a correct decision to limit David's bingo chances. So here, unfortunately, another bad aspect of a hold shines through the position, where if I play in this spot, David can't play in this spot. So another reason to play a hold is that it limits scoring plays or dumping plays, like vowel dumps, like you see here, Vadieu at H11. So I was already kind of tilted before the game, I think, and this play of Adieu was making me rethink my decision of playing Oda, and I thought that maybe I was making bad decisions. And so here I think starts a little bit of a tilt game. I think after Adieu I got tilted, and I might have started playing poorly. So here I had analog T. I think. And I couldn't find any plays that I really liked here. I saw there were 2 blanks out. I saw that I was up 8 points. And I decided to play Logania. The problem is Otalgia is just better. It scores 2 more points, leaves me with the better tile. The N is a better tile than the T, probably. It's pretty close in this position, given the placement of the E in beige. So it is possible that the T might be slightly better, but the problem is clear. The problem is that Logania opens up big scoring spots that I don't need to open up. This 14 row, this 14F spot, this 12A spot the 12A spot is way worse after Logania, I think, than after Otalgia. And a long is obviously not a good play. The other thing I was considering in this position was Agon. I didn't even see Bogan. But I thought after Agon, I'm opening this scoring spot, and the LAT leave was not really likely to amount to much. But I do bingo a lot more. So I was highly considering Agon, but I ended up going with the turnover play. And if you watch my last YouTube video, I talk a little bit about the concept of tile turnover and its pitfalls. And by going for tile turnover here, I'm making it more likely I draw an S or a blank, but I'm also making it more likely that I draw a Q, a V, a W, a U. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, but in this position, there's a slight edge to making plays that use up more tiles to try and draw some scoring tiles / bingo tiles, because I had kind of neither. I didn't have an E, but I did have a few good bingo tiles, just nothing that amounted to anything. So Otologia is definitely the play, I think. I know I say definitely, I think, but I think Otologia is the play, and I just missed it. So this is definitely my first mistake, clear mistake of the game. Luckily, it is only a small one. But that is only after 4 moves. So a lot of game to be played still. David plays EGAD. I drawn to this rack of Cyanite, and notice that he has just blocked the spot for Cyanite, and didn't see any other bingo here. And I ended up playing just day for 15. So I did draw into a nice S and bingo tiles here, but unfortunately there's no spot for the 7 after EGAD, and I can either play YE or play off the Y or score 41 points for stay, which I also noticed in the position. Or I can even go in between and play Yen for 25. I decided that this bingoed more than EINST and gave less back. So if I play YE here and David does have an S, he can score 40 points easily in this spot. Whereas if I place the Y here, you have to play a 6-letter word, which is a lot more difficult. So I thought the slight defensive edge of day over YE, and I thought also a higher bingo chance was the reason to play off the Y. But I think I might have misevaluated this, because what am I really bingoing with? Like if I draw an E, what do I draw? Whoops, that's not a word. There's no word with an E. There's a Tesian with an A. There's Cyanite, which again doesn't play, with an I. There's nothing with an O. So the more you look at it, the more you realize that this fish of just a Y only really works if I draw a consonant rather than a vowel. I can draw the A and hit a Tesian, but I'm really mostly only hitting with consonants. So this whole plan of fishing one tile off, yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. It's just plain bad. I really have a hard time explaining why I chose this over playing YE. Maybe I forgot about Goi. I don't know. I really don't know why I did this. Obviously, the aspect of giving a bit less back is kind of true. Although by playing just day, it allows overlaps on the 11 row, which YE blocks. Yeah, this is just a bad play. Plain and simple. The other 2 plays I considered are 10 points better. This is the sort of mistake that I don't expect myself ever to make. It's a self-inflicted wound. There's no reason why I should think that this lead of EINST is worth keeping over EINST. I just can't explain it. Yeah. I can't even type. So what can I call this strategy? Large. So I play day, and here David plays preen for 23. And yeah, I miss. Well, I don't miss, but David actually blocks my bingo of tweenies. And so I'm forced to play off EW or EEW here. I could have played EEW for a little bit more, or TEW, but I guess I've decided I'm gonna fish for the rest of the game. Which, I mean, this is what I should have done last turn. Should have kept EINST. So maybe I'm sort of admitting my mistake with this play. And the game's still close. It's just that, like, it's a battle of who's going to bingo first and draw the blanks, sort of. Luckily, this wasn't his rack because he'd have ceviche. So preen comes down, and David plays Tway for 34, which is nice because the ET doesn't really provide much of a lane. The ET takes an A or an H only. And here I missed again. And now that the board was like just not opening up and I was down 12 points, I decided that instead of fishing, because I can't really fish for any points here, I'd have to play off the V, which I can't do without playing other tiles. So there were no real good fishes here. I could exchange the V, but oh my god. Never mind. Yeah. This is what I said. I was really not looking forward to this game. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a miss. So here I actually phonied. Oh, Tenet is a really cool play. So instead of playing the Vingo here of unrivets, which I honestly don't understand how I missed that. There's one floater, and it's the U. I know unrivets, I know Venturis. Yeah, really. So instead I play a phony, vernis, which is a French word. It does not get challenged, luckily for me. Or maybe unluckily for me. Maybe if it does get challenged, I see unrivets next turn. But man, I don't get how. Yeah. I don't know how I missed this, but wait, it gets worse. This I hadn't looked at this game, but I know of one position in the game where something really bad happens. And this play of day and then this miss is just already just way beyond what I would consider a reasonable game. So I play Vernis when Rivets is potentially better. I wanted to just score, not open a lane, and play on this board. But this is not a word. This is not a word. And honestly, I will say this, and this is not at all an excuse. But to try and explain this miss, I think I can refer to two things. Well, three things. The first thing is, of course, I was tilted, as I mentioned. Was not doing well in the tournament, not in a good headspace. Number two, this was the last game of the day 3. So last game of the day, I mean, not usually not usually the strongest game, but yeah, could be some exhaustion there. And the third reason is because I didn't immediately see on rivets, I started considering plays here, and I saw Vernis, and I was not sure if it was valid or not. So instead of trying to find other plays in the position, my head was working to try and validate this word, which often happens. It's one of the reasons, it's one of the hidden reasons that knowing words is actually so important. It's not necessarily because you get your phonies challenged off, or you don't challenge phonies, or what have you, or you miss bingos. Obviously, this is a turn where I missed a bingo, but it's also a huge time sink to be in a position where you're unsure of a word or multiple words, because you start to consider how sure you are of the words, and you're sort of focusing on that rather than focusing on the position. So that's actually one of the hidden reasons why it's important to know words. Sometimes it can actually cause things like this to happen, where I'm not sure of this word, I'm trying to remember if it's French only or whatever, and I just don't do enough diligence to find my bingo. So anyways, I will not gloss over the position, which is actually a very, very funny pun. What I just did was a very funny pun, because if you speak French, you know the word vernis is polish. So like nail polish, lip gloss. Anyways, you get the pun. It was no pun intended, but now that I've said it, it was very funny. Also, it's possible this. No, it's not possible. This had to be my rack. It's actually funny in the game. After the game, I wrote down my rack. I said I kept an R here, which is impossible because I had the T for 3 turns in a row. Then I switched it to the T. Okay, so it's a horrible bingo miss here. David plays Q? No. Plays CUE for 10. Where does that go? Or CUE for 9. Okay. Yeah, he plays Q here. And I saw that I could maybe draw into curly Q. Which is a fun extension. I don't know if there are any... Oh yeah, barbecue as well. But the B's are gone. What other extensions are there? Barbecue, curly Q. Oh, with the Y. I totally didn't remember that one. Anyways, he plays Q, which sets up an S hook. And what do I do here? ECRU. So here, oh, up court. That's cool. So here I didn't really know what to do. And I ended up playing Ecru, which I think is a good play. It opens another S hook. I do have an S. It doesn't like pure fish. It plays off a few tiles, so I can draw into some scoring tiles a decent amount of the time. And I thought that if I played EQ, some plays making EQs would be pretty bad for me. Whereas if I play Ecru, Ecru's plays are not as bad because they open triple lines for me to respond with. And this is actually a weird concept, but it happens a lot where you're the one that's leading. So you would rather set up spots for your opponent to play that give you like playback that are not necessarily like bingo playback, but you're happy to potentially like open up a possibly better spot for your opponent, because their playing there will actually give you good counterplay. And since I am up by a little bit, the difference is if I hit this spot, this N6 spot or this J1 spot, which are the prime bingo lanes after this play, I will be ahead. I'll be ahead by over a bingo. So that's fine. But if opponent hits those spots, I don't have to bingo to equalize. So that's a sort of weird concept that comes up. And I might also overvalue, but I think about it a decent amount in games. And so here I get tilted once again. And this was the low point of my tournament. So here David plays Airstrip as a natural bingo, which first thing I noticed about this play is that it would not have been possible if I had played any other play that I was thinking about, EQ, for example. And so I noticed that and was immediately really pissed off. And that's not the whole of it. But he plays Airstrip, and he's only up by 32 points. The problem is he's now bingoed with no blanks, with a not so good rack, and both blanks are unseen, and I had this rack, which I thought was dead. Now, I've had this rack before, and I often will see nitrosyl as a potential 8-letter word with this rack. And then I will fail to see the actual word on this rack. And yeah, this was a low point of the tournament. I didn't even know about unrivets. That's really bad. But what's worse is missing the word nostril on my rack. Common English word. A very, very tough bingo for me to spot. But with the work I've done recently to try and improve my word knowledge, I was not expecting myself to make this mistake ever again. I have missed the word nostril multiple times. One time is too many, but after one time, that should be the last time. But I think because of the circumstances of the tournament, because of exactly what just happened, and because of my lack of anagramming ability that haunts me to this day, I completely whiffed on the word nostril, which plays in 2 spots. Now, it's not like this is a game-losing mistake. However, yeah, it could be that I play nostril and David triples and wins. Because again, both blanks are still unseen. He could have drawn both of them. He doesn't even need both blanks to triple. However, that doesn't matter. Also, just paired with the fact that I played day, and then I played this phony instead of unrivets, I should never have been in this position in the first place. And it is kind of throwing caution to the wind to play this, but if David doesn't have a triple, I'm in very good shape to win. And yeah, I missed it, and I played AL for 3. And this is just the saddest play in the entire tournament. Now, let's not forget to, let's not forget to put the mistake in the annotation. Yeah, it really pains me to go through this game, but I thought I would share it with you guys because it's important to show the highs and the lows. So, David plays coup, And at this point, right after I made my play, I looked at my my letters, and like I feel like I probably almost like passed out, because right as I hit the clock, I noticed that I had missed nostril, and like basically the feeling, it's just the sinking feeling. I'm sure you guys have had it for things that are not Scrabble, but I usually have it for Scrabble related things when I realize that I've missed a really good play, especially a bingo right after I hit my clock, which very often happens. And you can see on the score sheet AL, I put a star next to it, which is me indicating that I know I've screwed up with that play. And I put tilt, 4 exclamation marks, and I put my leave as nostri. So, to nostri, I draw an X, which is very, very funny and very, very fitting. And I decide to play AX because there really don't seem to be that many vowels left. So I didn't want to part with my O. And again, this is a position where I need to take a look at the letters, the unseen letters, and see how good I do with those letters. So with an A, I bingo. With an E, I bingo. With an F, I get forints. H, I don't think I drew anything. But with an I get ironist. With a J, I don't get anything. With a K, I don't get anything. With an L, I was like, oh, with an L, I get nostril. With an M, I didn't see anything. Introns with an N. Torsion, nitroso with an O. So basically, this was actually a good fish. Unlike the play of day, this was definitely worth playing over socks. But where am I bingoing now? Now I'm the one behind, and any bingo that I play is likely to open huge spots for David to come back. So here is actually more hopeful to draw like a blank and triple triple. That seemed like my easiest or likeliest path to victory. So QI comes down, and I draw the K. And so, yeah, sometimes it's just brutal. Sometimes you are punished for your mistakes. Other times you're not. I noticed that I could play KI here, but I thought that I was likely to just instantly lose so often after KI with the bingo ending in S that I thought I should take the points for skin and make the game closer and try to claw my way back in that way. So I play skin, and here David plays Joe and Upo, which is a great play, which now forces bingos to be pretty much on the N or the O columns. And to TOR, I draw EITT, and here I just felt like I had to try and phony. But in phony, I would just lose. 2 blanks are still out. Exactly 7 tiles unseen. So if I can just prevent him from bingoing with my phony and make the end game complicated enough so that he might accept under pressure and maybe blow the game, or think that he had a win, or think that he had a bingo, I thought that was my biggest path to or likeliest path to victory. So I phonied with Toddier. I also wasn't 100% this was not a word, but I was pretty confident that it wasn't. And here it was challenged off before I even had the chance to draw tiles. One of the other reasons I phonied here is because if I get 15 seconds to draw my courtesy tiles, which is the rule, if your play is held and not challenged after 15 seconds, you can draw tiles, which you then have to show your opponent if your play gets challenged off. But in this particular instance, exactly 7 in the bag, I just really wanted that knowledge. I could have exchanged 7, which I did earlier in the tournament to get that same knowledge without phoning. But if I had the chance to get knowledge of what was unseen, I might have been able to swindle the game. But to his credit, David challenged very quickly, and he played Sly for 14, and he's up by 52. I decide to play Trio, just hoping for some miracle. Both blanks were still unseen, and unfortunately, my rack was EFHSTT blank, and so I knew that unseen to me was Almoner blank, so David was guaranteed to have a bingo. And indeed, he played Almoner with a blank A. And with my rack here, I just played Thief for 48. And David went out with AH for 7 to win 408 to 337, which gives me my second negative record of the tournament. I think I was 5-7, clawed my way back, and now I was 10-11 with 10 games to go, and I knew this game was a completely blown game from the moment I played AL and hit the clock and saw what I had missed. But I didn't actually know the extent to which this game was played poorly. So yeah, still hurts all these weeks later, 2 months later, but what can I say? I'm still not good enough. And yeah, this was probably my worst played game of the tournament. I thought that game went to an earlier game that I played against Stefan Fatsis, but this one was truly a disaster. So Luckbox Lind asks, would it be beneficial in the position of Toddier for opponent to wait to see what I drew, to have that knowledge too? That would be good if there weren't exactly 7 tiles in the bag, because if there are 7 or fewer tiles in the bag, just based on knowing that I have TOTTIER, David can track those letters off and know exactly what is unseen, so he doesn't need to wait for me to draw unless he thinks he's mistracked. That would be the only reason that he would want to wait and see what I draw. And there's no question, there's no certainty that I would draw, but yeah, in this particular instance I would have. But if David's tracking was correct, he doesn't need to know. I'm the only one that needs to know, because David has full knowledge of my rack and I don't have full knowledge of his. So I was hoping to get it by drawing all 7 and maybe pulling something, but yeah, that would be it would be beneficial. It is beneficial in other contexts other than the one that where there are 7 or fewer tiles left in the back. Anyways, that was it. So goodbye to YouTube. Hope you enjoyed my demise, and I'll see you guys next episode.